All right, Nick, let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams. We've talked about them a lot this season because we like to talk about really good teams, and the play on the field speaks for itself. So the Rams are a really good team, but it takes more than that to make deep playoff runs. And the Rams have a secret sauce this season that I think is going to help them go further than they have in a few years here. I think something special is brewing in Los Angeles. We'll dive into that in just 1 second here, but first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. Or Nick, as I alluded to, we all know the Rams are a great team. I'd say probably the best team in the NFC right now. Really like what they have going on. Veteran quarterback, solid play. Everyone is playing lights out. A lot of great stuff on the defensive side of the ball. So young there. This team looks really, really good. But it does take more than just being good to make deep playoff runs, because when you get to the playoffs, everybody is good. You have to have a deciding factor that can help push you over the edge, and the Rams seem to have a big one this season. Let's jump into this first tweet over on X, and we'll talk more about it on the other side. So this is from the AP's Josh Dubois. He said the Rams have been penalized 42 fewer times than their opponents this season. The next best team is at 19, which is insane. The Seahawks and the Browns. LA's 314 fewer penalties. Yards in penalties is also best, with the Bengals at second at 242 fewer penalty yards. So not only are other teams getting called against them versus the Rams, but the Rams are getting called on less penalties as well, giving them a huge delta, allowing them to be a very disciplined team who does not shoot themselves in the foot. And I think when you get to the playoffs, you have to have a team that's veteran, that's disciplined, is able to play smart and clean football. You can't lose the game yourself if you're a team. There's a lot of good teams out there in the NFL nowadays that seem to be losing games for themselves, even though they're very, very talented. The Rams do not do that. And I think what best illustrates this year of how good they are at it is this next graph that I would like to bring up here, just showing teams versus their opponents in penalty yards. And this factors in the deltas between everything of penalties called against those teams versus penalties called on the other teams. As you can see, the Rams at the top there, plus 297. You can see at the very bottom, the Bears, they get the worst end of the deal. Negative 249 penalty yards for them. So they're in the negative 250 yards, so to speak, as far as what they've gained or lost on penalties versus them. It is much better to be at the top of this chart. I think you're going to see a lot of strong teams up here. See teams like the Seahawks. The Bucks have been a good team this year. The Bengals, they've done good stuff. We know they're talented, but injuries kind of held them back as well. Just all over the board, you want to be near the top here. The Rams are at the tippity top. They're the kings of the castle when it comes to not getting called for penalties and being in situations where penalties are called on their opponents. They're doing a lot of really good work this year. And I think this great coaching, we've always talked about Sean McVay. He's a strong coach. He's built a great culture here. And I want to bring light to one other part is we talk about the Rams, and this is a great team because of, the great coaching, but the great players as well. And there's a lot of young guys on the defensive side of the ball that they have brought in over the couple of years. You got Fisk, you have Verse, you have Young, you have Turner, just a lot of really young guys on that defensive front. And that can be a case where penalties get called, hands to the face mask, holding, whatever the case would be. Not the case here. This is a team through all of this, through veteran free agent additions, they're able to band together and play really, really well. So I love what's going on for the Rams here. And I think this is the reason that this team is my favorite team to make a deep push to the Super Bowl this year. Because A, they're playing very good football. They're dynamic on offense and defense. You look at the current PFF grades, they're number one in offense and number one in defense. That's incredible. But also, they're not playing sloppy. They don't get penalties called against them. They're not beating themselves. So overall, Rams looking really good, and I think they have a really special postseason ahead of them because of it. Curious what your thoughts are on all this, Nick. But before we get to you, Rams fans, in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on this team as we come into this week's game? I think it's going to be an interesting one here. You've got a tough opponent in the Lions, going to be a big game. Might be the game of the week as far as the NFC is concerned. One definitely to watch. But do the penalties not or lack thereof, they push you over the edge, they give you a little bit better score in this one? Let us know in the comments below. What are your thoughts here? Rams versus Lions, final score in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about everything here for Rams?
So I think the penalty differential that you highlighted is absolutely important to talk about because there's things that can derail a championship team. Obviously, injuries come to mind. Turnovers are another thing. Poor coaching can obviously have its negative effects, and that's where the penalties come in. There are a lot of talented teams across the National Football League that struggle with penalties, right? Whether it's discipline issues, whether it's personnel challenges, poor coaching, whatever it may be, and they can kill drives and they can kill games. And when you get into the playoffs, every drive, every snap, and of course, every single game is absolutely critical. And it's imperative that you execute at the highest level. And when you look at this Rams team, you brought it up a second ago, but I want to highlight it really in depth right now. Across the board, based on how they're actually playing, there's no one better, maybe in recent NFL history. Let's pull up this post on X courtesy of Jake Oliver, Ellen Bogan, if you don't mind, Mai, so we can kind of dive through how dominant the Rams currently are. So this is their PFF grades heading into this upcoming week. Overall PFF grade, they're first in the National Football League. They're tied for the highest ever overall team PFF grade with the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, the Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks. That team, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl. Offense, like you mentioned, they're the best. Number one, pass offense first, pass protection 24th, receiving second, rushing fourth, run blocking first, defense overall first, run defense first, tackling sixth, pass rush sixth, coverage first. So again, they're an incredibly talented football team. They're great at executing all phases of the game. When it comes to a macro perspective for a championship contender, there's a few things you really look for, right? Number one, great coach. Number two, great quarterback. And of course, you need that relationship to be working well together. You need a good working relationship. The Rams check all those boxes there, right? You need a team that's capable of winning the line of scrimmage. The Rams can obviously do that with a great front seven. Their offensive line, great at run blocking, not so good in pass protection. But the beautiful thing about being so dominant as a run blocking unit is that you can use play action and it basically takes care of itself when it comes to pass protection. Another thing you need is playmakers, right? On both sides of the football, the Rams obviously have that on offense and on defense. And you need experience. And I think that's an element to this Rams team that's really important, both from a coaching staff perspective and from a player perspective. This Rams roster is laced with experiment. Doesn't mean they're all a bunch of old guys, right? They got some vets, of course, looking at you, Adams and Stafford specifically, but they got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football and played a lot of football together in Los Angeles under Sean McVay. A lot of continuity, a lot of experience. I mean, look at all those factors. You look at their performance, you look at from a macro checklist, the Rams are a championship team. They're the best team in football. Listen, no disrespect to Seattle, no disrespect to the Green Bay Packers or to the Denver Broncos in the AFC. I think the Rams are clearly the best team in football. I don't think it's that close. I think we're looking at one of the most dominant teams in recent NFL history. If you look at their losses, you look at Philadelphia on the road, they dominated that entire game. Two block kicks are the only reason they lose that game. And then, of course, the division game against San Francisco, where, again, they dominated the game. The 49ers somehow managed to escape off of turnovers and fourth down stops. The Rams were clearly the better team. And every single game the Rams have played this season, they've been undeniably the better team. And, again, the only thing that can derail them because of that are potentially penalties. And yet they aren't happening, guys. At this point in the season, right, we're heading into week 15. Teams are who they are, right? You're not going to magically change who you are as a team. You're not going to go from a good running team to a bad running team. You're not going to go from a good offense to a bad offense. You're not going to go from a bad defense to a great defense, right? You're not going to flip the switch. You are who you are at this point. And because the Rams have done such a good job with the penalties, with the execution, avoiding the negatives, it allows their talent, it allows their experience, it allows their execution, it allows their coaching to shine through. And that's why this Rams team, I think, is on just a full speed track right to the Super Bowl. I really believe it. I mean, listen, the Seahawks are a great story, and I think their coaching staff has done a great job. Do you trust Sam Darnold? I sure don't, if we're being honest. Philadelphia looks like they may be in the middle of another collapse, right? You look at the NFC South, it's either Tampa or Carolina. And listen, I know Carolina, again, feisty team. They obviously upset the Rams, of course, as well. But again, the Rams were better than Carolina that day. The Panthers kind of big played them a little bit. So you look at all of the Rams' losses, they've been the better team. But I think the Rams in a rematch, certainly in Los Angeles, that's an easy LA win in my book. Tampa doesn't strike fear into me, right? You look at the NFC North, you sit there and say the Bears, yeah, they're kind of a cool story, but they've kind of survived on miracle finishes. The Lions are pretty frisky just because they can score a ton of points. That's Jared Goff, Jameer Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. They got some matchup nightmares. I think that's really the only serious challenge. Them and the Packers. I don't trust the Packers yet because when I look at their team, they are a thrill a minute. They're either a great offense one week and a great defense. The next week, they're not consistent at all. I don't trust Green Bay quite yet, although they are very talented. But long story short here, what I'm saying here, guys, is that every other contender in the NFC, and there are some good ones, have severe flaws, have severe concerns. The Rams, they don't have any. What's the weakness? Look at their PFF grades off the charts. You can sit there and say pass protection. Yeah, that's great. You want to rush the passer at them, they'll run the football and play action you to death. You won't stand a chance. Defense outstanding, right? They don't have a weakness and they don't hurt themselves. And the fact that they aren't hurting themselves, I think is outstanding news as they head to the playoff, into this push to the postseason. I don't think there's a team that beats this Los Angeles squad, barring something really crazy happening. I think they're the clear favorite, not just to win the NFC West, of course, not just to win the NFC, but to win the whole darn thing this year. They're that good.
Yeah, Nick. And a couple other things talk about not hurting themselves. I want to bring up some key bullet points here. I think really drive this point home. One, Rams team least affected by injuries in the NFL right now. So obviously that's something good, but not something you can really control. Two, fewest giveaways in the league with only 11. I don't believe they had, this is actually through week 13. I don't believe they had any last week. I think they actually got an interception last week, so that won't change. But fewest giveaways in the league. They don't turn the ball over unnecessarily. Like we said, don't shoot themselves in the foot. And something else that I think is really important here, converted touchdowns in the red zone, 66% of the time do they turn red zone runs into touchdowns. It's the fifth best mark in the NFL. So they do what they need to do. They play clean football, no penalties. They've been blessed with no injuries so far this season, knock on wood. Let's hope it stays that way. Number 3, this is a team that they don't give the ball away. They don't do that. But also, when you're in the red zone, you got to make use of that short field. You have to go and get touchdowns. In this day and age, you see high-flying offenses a lot nowadays. You can't settle for field goals, especially with high-powered offense like this Rams team is. They do it 66% of the time. They're getting touchdowns in the red zone. So love all that for the Rams. Like you said, I agree with you completely. This is my favorite team right now to go all the way this season. I think they have a lot of good stuff going for them. I'm really excited to see this game this weekend because this Rams team is playing out of their minds and they're playing really, really clean football as well.